Yiska here with another GGRecon interview, this time with Mini of SUMN FC. Congratulations to winning your first match. How does it feel?
It feels fantastic. It's like a huge relief. I did say in the pre-match interview that I thought we were favourites going in, and I thought it would be pretty clean. But for the past hour or so, I've just been completely stressed out. Like, I don't get to watch the boys play. I don't like watching the stream because it's so delayed. I get to hear them, and it's just so stressful. But so relieved and so happy, so proud of them. They've done so good, so well, like unbelievable.
Sweet. I mean, we heard your story, and we were wondering how much practice is even possible. What was it like the last couple of weeks qualifying for this and then also practicing for this event?
So practice it's actually like, we don't have as much time as signed teams, but me and Boaster are complete nerds, and we specifically chose players that could play the amount we wanted to. Whether that means we do certain things in the morning and then certain things at the night, whether I'm at work literally texting him stuff about the game, like, we just make it work. So we've flexed around it. It would just be nice at some point to have some consistency so that, you know, it's more normal, I guess. Right.
You're one of the rosters with more UK players, and for some weird reason, especially in context of esports history, and let's say of the last decade, surprisingly many British people. Why do you think that is? Why is Valorant so seemingly dominated by the Brits?
So what I would say to that question is that I come from a Counter-Strike background. And so in Counter-Strike Source, which is where I kind of was vaguely okay, UK was actually very good. We were one of the top regions. And at the start of CSGO, we were also one of the top regions. Many people I don't think many people realize that we had very good teams at the early stages of CSGO. The issue was there was this time period where there wasn't enough money in esports at that point. So a lot of these older players who were very talented decided to go on with their lives, me included. I don't put myself in that top tier category,
right,
but I was one of those people. So I think that there's always been that talent there. It's just, there's never been a good time for it. And then like the later stages of the CS scene specifically, it just turned into a bit of a toxic pit of just messiness, really. Like if you get involved, you're part of that toxicity probably. And so I think this is an opportunity for players from other games as well as CS to just prove that they're here, they're hardworking, it's fresh, go from the ground up, and we can win.
Now, money is an interesting topic, especially like when we look at the European First Strike, how it shook out with the qualifiers and everything. There are a bunch of actually not signed teams in the later stages, despite some signed orgs not making it. Have you guys talked to any of the bigger organizations yet?
I think this is a question that we have to be careful around because
right.
I think it's one of those questions that I think that we're focusing on that after this tournament.
Right.
We want to prove to the world how good we are, and then we'll talk about orgs later.
Right. I suppose the level of play seems to be already very high. I think you could probably make the arguments that Europe is playing some of the finest Valorant, especially like the top teams, but also the runner-ups are coming. Do you think that should slowly attract the attention of, you know, like the endemic orgs that we are used to from other FPS games within the European scene?
So I think with First Strike, we were hoping that, I guess I'll go back earlier actually. So at the start of this team, Ignition series were how teams would show whether they were good or not. And the start of this team, we actually did quite well in qualifiers for the Ignition series. Very close results with Bonk, who are now Guild, and very close results with FPX. But unfortunately, they decided to take a route where they would invite teams rather than have open qualification systems. So we weren't even part of the top 15 teams that got invited at that point, when we already kind of proved that maybe we were part of that top 15. And then even further on, they invited like 4 teams, for instance. So our strategy was pretty much to prove ourselves through these kind of lower tier tournaments, because those were all we had. We couldn't prove ourselves any other way. And we were like, right, First Strike, this is the place where we get to prove ourselves. And we feel a little bit annoyed that we haven't had to fight some of the teams that we think we can beat, that other people rate very highly. But we play the hand we're dealt, as I've said before, and we'll beat what's in front of us.
Right. Yeah, it's an interesting esports topic that frequently pops up, even in open systems where you have multiple tournaments. The question of the gatekeepers in franchise leagues, it's usually the teams that sign them. In tournament structures, when you have invite tournaments, that's what's happening there. Do you think they should just let tournaments like this just run more openly in order to truly filter the best teams out by natural selection?
I think if you're talking about the Ignition kind of period, I would say that because it's so early in this game, I think a more open format would probably be fairer. Because if you're inviting teams, some teams that were unsigned at that point, I would specifically point out Bonk at that period. They were looking like a top 4 team, I'd say, and they didn't get invited to a top 4 tournament. And now I'm not stupid enough to say that they deserved it, because obviously branding and marketing and all this stuff is important in esports. But I'd say in such an early stage of growth in the scene, it would be a much better format to have a more open thing where we get to see who is really the best and who isn't.
Right. Now, I also got to ask you at least one question about the game, and it's, of course, you guys also chose to go with the Viper, right? And FPX showed it off a little bit in the qualifier. Was that like a strategy that was sort of permeating through the European Scrum meta, or is that like your spin on this particular hero?
So when I said in the Ignition series a long time ago we had a close game with FPX, we actually ran Viper back then about 3 months ago. And I think that no one really played it around then because it was quite weak back then, but we tried it for some reason. And it's been buffed since. So we had a feeling that Vipers would become more popular. It wasn't big in Scrim meta, but I think since FPX showed it off at First Strike, last week we've been hit with quite a few Vipers. The way we play Viper is very different to FPX. I think they play like no Omen, but we continue with the Omen right now. So I think there's advantages both the ideas I wanted to do for a while. And it's something that Doma has not been wanting to do for a while because it takes him off of Raze. But I think I remember saying to him, like, look, Doma, like, I realize you're one of the best Raze players in the world. Like, I know you're that sick. But trust me, like, I know what I'm talking about. Like, we can win with this. Like, it's super strong. And we needed some of that cheesiness to like, we were hoping to play like a stronger team and like kind of surprise them, because we knew that if we played against an FPX and suddenly out of nowhere we play Viper, they might not be fully ready for it.
Right. Then that's all the time we have today. Congratulations again, and good luck in the next round.